The morning sun weakly filters through the tall, arched windows of the courthouse. The light falls in uneven stripes across the polished wooden benches. The room smells faintly of aged paper, wax polish, and the subtle tang of coffee, a mundane scent that contrasts sharply with the tension thickening the air. Robin sits close to Kody, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles white. She does not say a word, but her eyes dart around the room, searching for signs of weakness, for anyone who might give a hint of what this day will bring. Every tick of the clock makes her stomach churn. Christine comes in moments later, the sharp click of her heels echoing off of the marble floor like a warning bell. Her posture is perfect, her expression a mix of determination and veiled fury. She stops in the doorway for a heartbeat, letting her gaze swing around the room, lingering briefly on Kody. Their eyes meet. In that fraction of a second, decades of tension and unspoken words hang between them. The judge raises an eyebrow, but says nothing. The silence stretching long enough to be almost unbearable. Mary walks in quietly, her face composed, but her eyes betray apprehension. She has a folder pressed tightly against her chest, almost like a shield, as if its papers could somehow protect her from the storm she knows is awaiting her. She doesn't meet anyone's eye, but scans the room briefly, keeping her emotions closely guarded. But inside, she is in turmoil, a whirlpool of fear, anxiety, and anticipation churns. Today is not just a hearing, but a reckoning, a day when secrets long buried are to be dragged into the light. Janelle is the last to arrive. Her steps are measured, her expression is neutral, but her eyes are sharp, assessing, calculating. She knows exactly what she's walking into, and she knows how to play the room. The presence is quiet, commanding. She doesn't need words to make her position known. The voice of the courtroom clerk cuts through the tense stillness, calling the case to order. The sharp, keen sound of the gavel strikes, echoing off the high ceilings, to slice through anticipation and force the entire family, and indeed everyone in the courtroom, to focus on what is about to unfold. The air is electric. Each member of the Brown family knows that what is said here within these walls will have ripples extending far beyond them. Proceedings start off cautiously. Kody's attorney stands up to begin presentation of the day's business in a calm but firm voice, while nobody really listens. Instead, everybody is watching, measuring reactions, waiting for that one misstep, that single crack in composure that would give away these hidden truths they have worked to protect for years. The first witness is called forward, a long-time family friend who has spent years observing the inner workings of the household. At first, it's all very mundane. Testimony to domestic routine. Little disagreements that, on the surface, seem inconsequential. But slowly, carefully, he begins to reveal subtle tensions. Incidents ignored at the time, but now assuming a whole new significance. One comment slips out almost accidentally, a detail that speaks to a secret no one outside this room should know. Murmurs ripple quietly through the courtroom. Gasps are exchanged. Kody's hands tighten on his lap, a slight twitch betraying his calm exterior. Christine leans forward, eyes narrowed, sensing an opening to probe, to dig deeper. Robin looks over at Kody, lips pressed together, worried but resigned. Mary closes her eyes for a moment, bracing herself. Janelle sits back, unblinking, absorbing every word. Shocking retention booster. You won't believe what happens next. Stay with me, because the truth they reveal is going to shock everyone in this courtroom. And with each word that tumbles from the witness's lips, a delicate web is created. It connects moments that had once been disjoined. It's like pieces of a puzzle being set in place, one after another, making the tension grow, palpable. You can sense it in the air, the almost imperceptible tightening of muscles, quickened breathing, and the way every family member shifts in their chair, ready for the storm they know will come. Then there's the photograph. A single, unassuming image that somehow holds the power to unravel years of carefully maintained appearances. It's passed to the clerk and displayed for all to see, and instantly, the room reacts. Eyes widen, Kody shifts uncomfortably, the calm mask slithing for the briefest moment. Christine's lips curl into a half smile, half snarl, sensing that momentum is shifting in her favor. Robin's eyes fill with a mix of hurt and fear. Mary's hand flies to her mouth, stifling a gasp, while Janelle leans forward slightly, her gaze sharp, calculating, analyzing every flicker of emotion. The witness adds context to the photograph, connecting it to past events and revealing a tale of miscommunication, manipulation, and hidden agendas. Each word makes contact with the gravity of the situation, as the courtroom listens to every word. Lawyers furiously scribble away, the judge nods occasionally, and the audience, present in the room or watching from somewhere else, can feel the emotional pressure building up. As morning wears on, tension mounts like a storm ready to break. Robin leans toward Kody, her voice barely a whisper. Do you think anyone will really understand what's happened? Cody's eyes flicker to hers, then away, a silence heavy with years of suppressed emotion. Sensing the vulnerability, Christine readies her next line of questioning. Mary shifts in her seat, a small tremor in her hand, betraying the fear she's worked so hard to mask. Janelle, quiet but watchful, notes every subtle interaction, aware that with these small cues, the balance of power can shift. The judge calls a mid-morning recess, and the courtroom empties slowly. What remains is a tension that doesn't dissipate. Whispers erupt in conversations, some defensive, others speculative. Alliances are tested in silence. Eyes dart nervously, calculating, measuring loyalty. Rain begins tapping against the courthouse windows outside, echoing the turmoil brewing inside. It's a storm that mirrors one already gathering among the Browns. The courtroom reconvenes, and the atmosphere has subtly, yet noticeably, shifted. The next witness takes the stand, bringing in documents, messages, and moments that finally see the light of day. Every revelation slowly chips away at the facade this family has taken such pains to create. Christine is forward, ready to seize every opportunity. Robin bites her lip, torn between protection and self-defense for Kody. Mary's face is calm, but a hurricane is raging inside. A glint flashes in Janelle's eyes. She knows the next few minutes might change it all. Words are exchanged, sharp, cutting, revealing. Emotions run high, tears threaten, voices waver. Every gesture, every glance conveys something. The courtroom, once a sterile legal environment, now becomes a stage for raw human drama. Tension vibrates in the air, almost to the point of suffocation. Even the judge, with the responsibility for maintaining decorum, feels the weight of what is taking place. As the session nears its end, one last bombshell lands. A private letter, hitherto undiscovered, surfaces in the hands of the attorneys. It's small, unassuming, yet it contains implications that ripple through the family like a shockwave. There are gasps throughout the room. Eyes widen. Kody stiffens. Robin's hand shakes slightly as she grasps her own folder. Christine's gaze sharpens. Mary looks away, a silent tear slipping down her cheek. Janelle appears impassive on the surface, but the tightness of her jaw speaks volumes about her internal response. The courtroom is noticeably quieter on this, the second day of the session. Rain pounds against the windows of the courthouse outside, drumming an insistent beat that mirrors the tension within. The family files in. Each footstep is heavier than the one before it. Kody walks with measured, almost mechanical precision, his face carefully composed. But the tension coils just beneath the surface, like a spring ready to snap. Robin trails behind, her hands clasped together, fingers twisting nervously. She looks sideways at Kody and silently questions whether he can handle the storm about to hit. Christine enters, a whirlwind of command. Her heels sound like a warning shot, sharp and precise. Today, she will leave no stone unturned. She lets her gaze pan across the room, resting briefly on each family member, cataloging reactions. Mary trails quietly behind her, trying to remain composed. But the flicker that crosses her face when the first witness is called onto the stand betrays her. Janelle, as usual, remains unruffled, her calculating gaze aware of how every nuance can alter the precarious balance of power. The clerk calls the court to order, and the gavel strikes with a force seemingly reverberating through every corner of the room. Silence falls like a blanket, thick and suffocating. Kody's attorney rises first, outlining the focus of this session. A series of events and statements that have long been sources of tension among the family, particularly regarding finances, household responsibilities, and long-suppressed grievances. The first witness is a close family associate, someone who has watched the Browns' daily interactions for years. Initially cautious, almost mundane, the minor disputes, the forgotten argument here. The miscommunication there are detailed, but slowly they begin to reveal the undercurrents, the whispered conversations, moments of quiet frustration that no one outside this room should have known. Eyes widen as the small, unimportant incidents take on an entirely different meaning. Christine leans forward, listening with wide eyes, her eyes glinting with anticipation. Robin bites her lip, trying to contain the emotional response she doesn't want to show. For the first time, the calm mask Kody wears shows cracks as his hands curl into fists in his lap. Tension grows with every word the witness says. They recount jealousy, financial disputes, and conflicts over parenting decisions never discussed. Each revelation lands like a weight, and the respective family members react with micro-expressions that say far more than their words could. Christine's nostrils flare slightly, a subtle signal of the anger simmering inside. Robin shoots a sideways glance at Kody, her eyes silently appealing for him to keep his cool. Mary's fingers clutch her folder tightly enough that her knuckles whiten. Janelle sits almost statuesque, except her eyes flicker with calculation, charting each movement and reaction. The witness pauses, then drops a bombshell, a comment about overheard conversations between Kody and a family member, showing a hidden discussion that contradicted years of what was believed to be truth. Gasps rickle softly through the courtroom. Kody's jaw tightens, his eyes narrowing as he fights to keep composure. Christine leans forward, seizing the moment, ready to press further. Robin bites her lip, her hand shaking slightly. Mary's face is calm, but inside, panic brews. Janelle's lips curl just slightly, a ghost of a smile, signaling she knows this revelation might change everything. It all comes to a head when the witness pulls out a string of text messages and emails, evidence of secret conversations that directly contradict previous testimony given by Kody. The messages reflect miscommunications bordering on deception, a look at a side of Kody's decisions that absolutely no one else outside the family had seen. The judge calls for order, but the air is electric. Even breathing feels like a weight, and a glance in any direction is a meaningful one. Christine rises, her tone sharp but controlled. "Mr. Brown," she begins, the words deliberate. "How do you explain these statements? Are those your words, your decisions, or something you're now trying to hide?" The courtroom shrinks around Kody. He swallows, opens his mouth, then closes it. For a heartbeat, there's silence until he speaks, his voice measured in an attempt at calm. But the slight tremble gives way to the stress he is feeling. Robin leans over to him, whispering, "Just be honest. They'll feel it if you're not." Next is Mary's testimony, and with it, a shift in energy. Her voice is soft, even gentle, but every word weighs heavy. She describes long nights of tension, small betrayals, and silent pain, painting a picture of a home full of complexity and emotional distress. The courtroom listens intently. Christine stiffens her posture. Robin's eyes fill slightly with tears, and Kody fidgets with his cufflinks, trying to show control. The surprise witness is called, a child of the family. The drama culminates, and the courtroom holds its collective breath. The child's words are small at first, hesitant, and almost too quiet to carry meaning. They speak of overheard conversations, observations of family arguments, moments of secrecy, and then their words hit with a blunt force that no one was expecting. Christine nods subtly as she leans forward. Robin swallows hard, visibly shaken. Kody's eyes widen, a flicker of panic crossing his face. Even Janelle's stoic mask falters slightly as she contemplates implications. Evidence piles up now. Emails, voicemails, and photographs fill in an overall tapestry of deception, miscommunication, and hidden agendas. With each revelation, the tension rises. Each family member is made to confront uncomfortable truths. Christine presses on, relentlessly, her tone a mix of sorrow, anger, and determination. Robin attempts to interject, quiet, pleading for calm and understanding. Kody attempts to maintain his composure, yet falters under mounting pressure, defensive. Mary's calm facade cracks briefly, showing the depth of her hurt. Janelle observes, silent but razor-sharp, taking in every reaction and mental note for what comes next. By mid-afternoon, emotions reach a fever pitch. Christine's tough questions corner Kody into an admission of details he'd previously denied. Any effort by Robin to soften the blow is drowned out by the sheer weight of revelations pouring out now. Tears glisten in Mary's eyes as she talks of times of betrayal and frustration long suppressed. The judge even leans forward, intrigued yet concerned, as this courtroom becomes far more than a legal space. It turns into a theater of human emotion, full of tension, heartbreak, and unresolved conflicts. Then comes the photograph, a new piece of evidence that shows Kody in conversation with a family member in a way that contradicts his statements. The room reacts instantly. Gasps, murmurs, and shifting stances fill the courtroom. Christine seizes the opportunity, pressing Kody further, forcing admissions he hopes to avoid. Robin's hands shake slightly as she clasps them together, willing some semblance of calm onto herself. Mary bites her lip, silently coaxing herself to stay composed. Janelle's eyes narrow, recognizing the turning point in this testimony. With the session about to conclude, the judge allows a brief recess, but the tension does not dissipate. Murmurs spread like current waves in the room. Alliances are shifted wordlessly, and one feels that the next day will bring more explosive confrontations. The rain pounds harder outside, lashing against the courthouse roof, an indication of the storm raging inside. The third session starts off almost oppressively in the courtroom. Sunlight struggles through tall windows, falling in muted beams that barely light the tangible tension hanging in the air. Every one of the Browns is back again, but the energy feels different. It's heavier, charged almost like the calm right before a hurricane hits. Kody takes his seat first, in a stiff position, drumming his fingers against the bench with quiet, contained agitation. Robin sits next to him, hands clasped, eyes darting between the judge, the witnesses, and Kody himself, her mind racing with a mix of hope and apprehension. Christine enters next, a force of determination and barely contained fury. Her gaze sweeps the room, lingering on each member of the family long enough to convey judgment, expectation, and scrutiny all at once. She moves with purpose, heels clicking sharply against the marble floor, a sound that resonates like a warning. Mary follows, quietly taking her seat, an expression carefully neutral, yet from her posture, tension tells a different story. She has learned to mask her emotions, but today, the weight of decades of unresolved pain presses upon her. Testing composure. Janelle is last to arrive, cool and calculated, her eyes sharp as she surveys the space, wholly aware that subtle reactions now might set course for the remainder of the trial. The gavel strikes, demanding utter silence. The voice of the judge slices through the quietened air as he calls the next witness to the stand. This is a person who has monitored the Browns from within the family for years, watching interactions that most outsiders could hardly imagine. The testimony begins slowly, almost innocently, a relating of daily life, minor friction, and subtle tensions. But beneath these ordinary details lie the seeds of explosive revelations. Every word is loaded. Each sentence is measured in its delivery to inform and unsettle. Christine leans forward, eager to catch every nuance. Robin shifts slightly and bites her lip, struggling to keep her anxiety hidden. Kody's jaw tightens, an almost imperceptible sign that the witness's words are hitting closer to home than he'd anticipated. The witness starts to describe the especially heated argument between Kody and one of the wives in their family. An incident long glossed over as no big deal, but now revealed as a true turning point in their relationship. Christine seizes the moment and presses for more detail. Her tone, a mix of curiosity and barely restrained accusation. Kody shifts uncomfortably, his composed facade cracking just enough for a flicker of doubt to appear in his eyes. Robin reaches for his hand without calling attention to it, a silent plea for steadiness. Mary's fingers drum nervously on her folder, her mind replaying the memories of moments she had buried, now being aired publicly. Janelle remains poised, observing every facial twitch, every tightening jaw, and every glance exchanged, silently cataloging reactions. And then, the proof, a series of photos taken over many years of Kody in private conversations that belie the story he has told publicly. The room almost audibly reacts, eyes widen, lips part in shock, and tension spikes. Christine's voice rises slightly, controlled yet cutting, as she starts to connect the dots, linking past decisions to present consequences. Robin's breathing quickens as she whispers softly to herself, trying to make sense of what she is seeing. Mary's calm exterior wavers, her throat tight with emotion at the public dissection of her private life. Janelle leans forward, a slight smile crossing her face at the recognition of how this testimony might drastically shift the balance of the trial. This emotional intensity ramps up when a second surprise witness is called, a former family aide who reveals private observations of the household dynamics, confirming previously disputed events. Each revelation is like adding fuel to a fire that has been smoldering for years. Christine presses relentlessly, her questions sharp, strategic, and emotionally charged. Kody attempts measured responses, but his voice betrays the strain. A slight quiver in his tone signals internal conflict. Robin's lips tremble as she fights to maintain composure, while Mary stifles a sob, her eyes glistening as she recalls moments she never imagined would be exposed. Janelle's eyes are unwavering, fixed on the subtle shifts in expressions that signal the truth of what is unfolding. Christine's questioning becomes more pointed, focusing on the distribution of responsibilities and decisions over the years. The witness recounts moments where Kody's actions were inconsistent with what he had promised to his wives, exposing a pattern of manipulation and favoritism that had long been whispered about, but never publicly confirmed. Robin listens in silence, her fingers so tightly interlaced they hurt. Kody swallows hard, every nerve on edge. Knowing the room is watching for the slightest misstep, Mary's hands shake slightly as she takes notes, each scribble a silent attempt to process the growing weight of evidence against him. Janelle remains observant, her eyes sharp, her thoughts focused on how the testimony might impact not just the case, but the family's fractured dynamics. The tension peaks when Christine pulls out a handwritten letter, previously undisclosed, containing admissions and emotional confessions from Kody that contradict his testimony from previous sessions. Gasps ripple through the courtroom. Kody's posture stiffens, the calm exterior he has held for decades now showing cracks. Robin purses her lips, holding back emotion. Mary closes her eyes briefly, taking a slow breath to steady herself against the impact. Janelle leans slightly forward, absorbing every detail, aware of the explosive consequences these revelations will have. The courtroom now becomes a theater of emotions. Christine's voice, laced with anger and sadness, raises pointed questions. With each word, she hopes to cut through layers of deception. Robin tries to referee, making quiet interjections to encourage Kody to maintain his composure. Kody responds with caution, but each word is scrutinized, and the stress of this is betrayed in micro-expressions beyond his control. Mary cries quietly, almost imperceptibly, but the room picks up on the silent pain she has endured alone. Janelle, observant as always, eyes them without words, accounting for alliances, weaknesses, and all that will potentially fracture the family. Then, the most explosive revelation comes forth. A private voicemail recording, released by one of the surprise witnesses, captures a candid conversation between Kody and a family member discussing topics he had consistently denied. The room hovers into stunned silence as everyone processes the implications. Christine's eyes gleam with the satisfaction of uncovering the truth, while Robin's shoulders slump slightly in disbelief. Kody closes his eyes briefly, gathering himself, knowing he can no longer hide behind carefully curated words. Mary's fingers tremble, her voice caught in her throat, unable to immediately respond. Janelle's calm exterior belies the sharp analytical mind, processing every consequence. The final minutes of Section 3 are charged with emotional intensity. Christine forces Kody to admit truths he had never publicly acknowledged. Robin sits frozen, conflicted between loyalty and the painful awareness of betrayal. Mary's quiet dignity is tested as her long-suppressed emotions surface. Janelle observes with unwavering precision, calculating every impact and reaction. The gavel strikes for the day, but the tension lingers like smoke in the room. Whispers of conversation, eyes locking in a silent understanding. And the storm outside continues to mirror the storm within as the family leaves the courtroom for the day. Each family member has a sense that the next session will escalate even further, bringing on confrontations that may entirely rewrite the family dynamic. The courtroom opens to a tense hush, the storm outside having grown in intensity, rain hammering against the windows in a rhythmic, almost menacing beat. Inside, the air is heavy, charged with anticipation. Each Brown family member takes their seat with deliberate care, aware that today's session may irreversibly tip the balance. Kody sits rigid, his jaw tight, his fingers clenched in his lap. Robin leans slightly forward, trying to anchor herself as her heart pounds anxiously. Christine walks in with a purposeful stride, her eyes bright, scanning the room for the slightest sign of weakness. She's ready to push, ready to expose, ready to confront. Mary enters much more quietly, but the tension she carries with her is palpable. The storm of emotions, frustration, hurt, fear, anticipation, all tangles inside her behind the mask of composure. Her folder is clutched like a shield, and yet she surely knows the legal walls that have been built around them will not contain the tempest about to erupt. Janelle moves with quiet precision, her face composed, her eyes calculating, and every step considered to provide her optimal opportunities to observe and react. The gavel strikes, the sound reverberating through the courtroom like a warning bell. The judge calls the next witness, a former household staff member with intimate knowledge of the family's inner dynamics. Their testimony begins cautiously, but as words unfold, the veneer of control that Kody and the others have maintained starts to crack. The witness recounts private conversations, hidden frustrations, and unspoken resentments, revealing tensions that had been simmering for years. Christine leans forward, eyes blazing, eager to dissect each word. Robin sits tense, gripping her hands, struggling to maintain composure. Kody shifts uncomfortably, his face betraying the strain beneath his calm exterior. Mary's lips press tightly together as she listens, the pain in her eyes betraying the quiet heartbreak of her experience. The testimony grows more explosive when the witness presents a private letter, one previously unseen by anyone. The words on the page are simple, yet devastating. Confessions, admissions, and subtle accusations that put Kody squarely in the spotlight. Gasps ripple through the room. Kody's jaw tightens, his composure beginning to fray. Robin bites her lip, her hands trembling slightly as she holds them together. Christine's eyes gleam with intensity, sensing the opportunity to expose the hidden truths she has long sought. Mary's expression is stoic, but her eyes glisten with the emotion of years suppressed, now surfacing in this public reckoning. Janelle sits silently, absorbing each detail, every reaction, calculating how it may affect the unfolding trial. The energy in the room shifts abruptly as Christine rises to question Kody directly. Her voice is sharp, yet controlled, each word carefully chosen to ensure clarity and accountability. "Kody," she says, her gaze unflinching, How do you explain the inconsistencies in your statements compared to this letter? Do you expect us to believe your previous testimony? The courtroom collectively leans in, anticipating the impending battle. Kody takes a deep breath to steady himself, but the tremor in his fingers and the subtle shift in his posture betray an inner struggle. Robin huddles closer to him, whispering softly, urging him to remain calm. Mary's breathing is measured, but the quiver in her hand as she grips her folder betrays the deep emotional impact of the revelations. Janelle observes with hawk-like precision, her eyes lingering on every nuance, every potential vulnerability. A dramatic twist occurs when Christine introduces a series of text messages exchanged between Kody and a family member, revealing discussions and intentions that directly contradict previous statements. The messages hint at manipulation, favoritism, and miscommunication, and their impact is immediate. The courtroom reacts in subtle waves. Some gasp quietly, others shift uncomfortably in their seats. Kody's lips press into a thin line. Robin's eyes widen slightly, reflecting shock and disbelief. Mary exhales slowly, trying to maintain composure. Christine's determination is palpable, her voice rising just enough to command attention without losing control. As tension escalates, the witness is questioned about financial and household decisions, areas long fraught with conflict. Their answers reveal patterns of favoritism and neglect, highlighting decisions made without full transparency or consideration for all family members. Christine seizes the opportunity to challenge Kody on accountability and responsibility. Robin interjects softly at times, pleading for understanding, yet her attempts are drowned out by the weight of revelations. Mary's composure wavers, a small tremor in her hand betraying the storm inside her. Janelle watches silently, her expression unchanging, but eyes assessing every ripple of emotion. The session reaches a critical peak when a recorded phone conversation is played. A candid dialogue between Kody and one of the wives that exposes unspoken motives and intentions. The courtroom immediately reacts. Christine's eyes flash with satisfaction at the confirmation of her suspicions. Robin looks stricken, conflicted by loyalty, and the painful truths being unveiled. Kody's hands clench into fists as he listens, his mask of calm beginning to crumble. Mary swallows hard, tears brimming as memories she had kept hidden are brought into public scrutiny. Janelle's calm exterior hides an analytical mind at work, weighing the impact each revelation will have on relationships and legal outcomes. It becomes almost unbearable as Christine presses further, forcing Kody to acknowledge inconsistencies and admit details he had previously denied. Robin's shoulders slump slightly, the weight of the truth pressing down. Mary's expression, while outwardly composed, hides the emotional toll exacted by decades of unspoken pain. Janelle leans forward just slightly, carefully noting which family members are most affected and where cracks are beginning to appear. The climax of the session is the introduction of a photo taken at a very private moment, one which the public has never seen. The picture may seem harmless at first. However, when its context is elaborated on, it becomes a linchpin to other evidence that contradicts Kody's credibility and exposes hidden tension. Christine's voice cuts through the murmurs with questions that are precise and unrelenting. Robin's eyes fill slightly with a reflection of heartbreak and betrayal. Mary's lips press tightly, holding emotion back as she digests the implications. Janelle remains silent, observing the chaos with clinical precision. When the gavel finally falls, signaling the session's end, electricity fills the air. Everyone in the courtroom can feel it. The next session would be one of even deeper confrontations, more shocking revelations, and possibly the collapse of long-held facades. Whispers of conversations buzz, alliances are reconsidered, and all leave knowing the family's journey through truth and reconciliation is far from over. The fifth session opens to a courtroom buzzing with anticipation. The storm outside has slightly subsided, but inside the air is heavy, saturated with tension. Each of the Brown family members steps inside purposefully, their facial skin taut with anxiety and determination. Kody takes his seat first, upright, hands folded neatly in front of him. Although from beneath his composed veneer, his fingers subtly shake to betray the strain, Robin slips in next to him, a posture slightly forward, her eyes darting nervously while absorbing the atmosphere like a living barometer of tension. Christine comes in with a silent storm of confidence. Her heels click sharply against the polished floor, echoing across high ceilings, signaling that today she is ready to strike with precision. Her eyes scan the room, landing on each family member, registering subtle movements, minor facial twitches, and micro-expressions that reveal inner truths. Mary follows behind, her calm demeanor masking the emotional tempest churning within. She clutches her folder tightly, as if it alone can shield her from the whirlwind of revelations she is about to face. Janelle moves with her usual calculated grace, her expression neutral but eyes alert, observing each reaction, measuring every shift in alliances and loyalties. The gavel comes down sharply, demanding silence. The voice of the judge is laced with authority as he calls the next witness, a former household aide who would have had intimate knowledge of the family's private interactions. The witness mounts the stand, voice firm but guarded. They recall subtle, often overlooked details in the Browns' interactions, incidents of tension, unspoken frustrations, each word piling on the pressure. Christine leans forward, eyes fixed, absorbing every word, every cadence. Robin's fingers dig deeper into her hands, knuckles whitening as anxiety tingles down her spine. Kody adjusts position, telling in the slight movement that the words cut closer than he'd want to admit. Mary closes her eyes a brief moment, fortifying herself for what's coming to the surface. Janelle does not look away, eyes scanning and logging the subtlety of each emotional beat. The witness starts divulging confidential conversations and hidden observations. With each word and syllable, the picture of the family dynamics becomes fuller. Kody's decisions, once presented as thoughtful and fair, are shown to have fostered patterns of favoritism and misunderstandings. The room reacts subtly. Gasps, widened eyes, and quiet murmurs ripple through the benches. Christine's tone whips sharp, pressing Kody to account for discrepancies and the consequences of his actions. Robin leans forward slightly, a whispered plea to herself to keep calm. Mary's jaw clenches, the controlled calm she has kept in check, threatening to give way to raw emotion. Janelle is serene but intense, chronicling every shift in dynamics, every emotional reaction. Suddenly, a piece of evidence comes forward that completely changes the dynamics in the room. A handwritten note, previously undiscovered, comes to light. The words in the letter reveal emotional confessions, hidden motives, and subtle accusations pointed at Kody. Christine narrows her eyes as she realizes the gravity of this evidence. Kody stiffens up, his hand quivering with constraint. Robin's lips slightly part in disbelief. Mary's composure cracks, one tear escaping her eyes as memories, long buried, well up and crash like a tidal wave. Janelle sits poised, saying nothing, but weighing the impact this revelation will have on the courtroom and family dynamics. Christine seizes the moment, her voice a perfect balance of command and emotional weight. Kody, how do you respond to these admissions? Were they truthful, or were they yet another attempt to manipulate the narrative? The courtroom leans in en masse, sensing the tension build up with every word. Kody swallows, fighting for his voice as his composure flickers. Robin looks over at him, her eyes showing fear and concern, silently encouraging him to answer honestly. On her folder, Mary's fingers slightly quiver as she writes down every word. Janelle's face remains calm. Yet the intensity in her eyes speaks volumes on the gravity of the situation. The questioning escalates as Christine brings forth phone records, messages, and emails that not only contradict his previous statements, but serve as a catalyst, each document like a spark, causing tension throughout the courtroom to rise. The messages reflected motives unspoken, miscommunications, and those moments when Kody acted contradictory to promises he had made. A slight quake was seen in Robin's hands as she clasped them together, trying to anchor herself against the tide of rising emotions. Kody's jaw tightens, his eyes darting between Christine and the judge. The slow exhale from Mary was heavy with all the unspoken weight bearing down relentlessly. Janelle watched in silence, her eyes sweeping across the subtle reactions of each family member, as her mind calculated the oncoming ripples through courtroom and family alike. A moment of truth comes when a surprise witness, a child of the family, steps forward. Their testimony is hesitant, voice small and trembling at first. But they gradually recount overheard conversations, private arguments, and moments of hidden tension. Each word hits the room with great weight. The innocence of youth makes the revelations even more startling. Christine inclines forward, her tone soft yet firm, coaxing the truth out. Robin's eyes widen, caught between sorrow and disbelief. Kody's posture stiffens, a shadow of panic crossing his face. Mary bites her lip, trying to suppress her reaction, while in Janelle's eyes the glint suggests calculated observation. Christine presses on, piecing together the child's testimony with prior evidence into one coherent narrative that describes Kody as deeply conflicted. Robin's shoulders heave just a little lower, the emotional weight bearing down upon her. The mask of calm for Mary begins to crack, and tears fill her eyes as she listens to decades of family secrets being unraveled. Janelle leans only a little closer, evaluating how emotional revelations are affecting alliances and family dynamics. Kody attempts to answer with great care, controlled, but with tremors in his voice, revealing the inner tumult he cannot mask. It is in this session where the tensions rise to a final crescendo, with the introduction of a photograph capturing a private, tense interaction between Kody and a wife. Evidence that reframes prior testimony and adds depth to the emerging narrative. The room responds immediately. It is a mixture of gasps, subtle shifts in posture, and silent exhalations that underlines the emotional weight of the revelation. Christine's tone is precise, cutting through murmurs of protest and demanding accountability. Robin presses her lips together, fighting back tears. Mary's composure falters, her hand shaking as she holds her folder tightly. Janelle remains composed outwardly, eyes sharp, fully aware of the shifting power dynamics. With the sound of the gavel striking, signaling the end of the session, the courtroom fills with a low hum of murmurs and covert glances. Everyone leaves the courtroom, knowing full well the next session would ratchet up the tension even more, with confrontations that could change the course for the family forever.